Hello, gorgeous Libra clan. Welcome to June 2019. Can you believe that we are here? We are in one of the most magical months of the year because we're getting into the solstice season. Because of the way everything moves in June, there's always this extra sense of poetry and meaning. And as I thought about June, and I'm getting goosebumps already, so I'm prepared to have quite the powerful Libran reading today. That's always a signal for me. It's like, okay, it's a time of recalibration and balance. Now, you guys are known as the sign of balance, right? But I do find that no matter what, even if that's your thing, it's like we all have a way that we need to find a different way of doing things now. So we're going to be talking a lot about recalibration in June, this set point of shifting from the sun hits the extreme end of the spectrum. Our journey with the sun, it's on one end and we're going to be tilting another way now. It's such a powerful poetry to that, right? So the note that I have is in you all recalibrating. You and Libra are very deeply connected, right? It's your opposite. And for you, this is a month about focusing in, homing in on where you really want to put your energy. Now, the note that I had that came up when I thought about Libra, and I'm sure this will make more sense to you than it can even make to me in my mind, is that, you don't always have to feel that you have to go all the way down a hallway or all the way down a pathway to find the depth of the experience to get the answers you need in order to grow and move forward. I think sometimes there's a certain amount we need to experience, right? And timing is always perfect with this stuff. But I think, sometimes we don't need to go all the way into a situation. High Priestess. Just as I was saying, we don't always have to go all the way into a whole emotional, physical, relational experience in order to know all the answers. We don't have to torture ourselves with that. We can trust in what feels good and what feels right, and we can trust our intuition. One of the things being an air sign, you have a natural ability to think and to put ideas together. So for you, and depending on your chart, obviously a lot of you, I'm sure, have a lot of water influence in your chart. Trusting in the water is important. 10 of Swords. Closing out a chapter, right? This is very esoteric energy. It's very hidden energy. It's kind of like a soul death on the energetic level. And I don't want to sound dramatic because it's not actually. This is very liberating energy. But I think what may be happening with you Librans this month is you are having a shift in identity. And it's not something that other people are going to see or notice necessarily. It's something that you will probably be working on behind the scenes. And that's okay. As long as you acknowledge it and you realize that this is happening and it won't equate to maybe the external world, you'll be fine. But, this whole idea of you don't have to torture yourself. You don't have to go all the way down a long road of torture in order to have your answers. A lot of times your intuition will tell you what needs to go, will tell you what needs to shift. Queen of Swords, there you are stepping fully into your power, right? You're deliberate, clear, balanced, forthright, clarity. And if you kind of look at this, we start with the mysticism of the High Priestess, right? She brings us into a hidden dark hallway where we can't see everything clearly. And in that mist, in that mystical healing fog, we find that there is something that we are ready to release, ready to surrender, ready to clear away. And as we clear it away, all those answers that seem to be eluding you, all of that joy that you wanted to be feeling, all that decisiveness becomes clear again. And you realize that in holding on to whatever it is that was no longer working for you, whether it's possessions, mindsets, people, situations, an idea of somebody, often these are just stories or fantasies of somebody or how we play a role in somebody's life, you realize that as soon as those are cleared away, you can see again that they were really a blindfold. They were really a distraction, right? And I think a lot of times it is these subtle things, these subtle fantasies we have of the one who got away, or these subtle fantasies of who we thought we were supposed to be and how that didn't work out, that can sometimes hold us back more. The Fool, who got this? Your opposite sign, Aries, got the Fool as well. So that's exciting. So, trusting into those mysterious waters a little bit is going to be important, but that's actually where your decision making is going to come from. 5 of Wands, interesting, right? I keep thinking about the note I had for you guys, which is you don't have to torture yourself with hard situations all the time. You don't have to force yourself into positions that don't feel good. Four of Pentacles. Okay, so we're doing a lot with your value. What is your value if you don't have challenging situations, if you don't have things you need to problem solve, if you don't have to hold things together, if you don't have to be the one that people look to? Clarity again. Okay, we're speaking of recalibrating. What we're doing is, for you, we're going into these deeper, darker, holding tension points, and then we're coming out with greater clarity. Going into tension points, coming out with greater clarity. It doesn't have to be super dramatic, but it's there. Five of Cups. Wow. Okay, we'll pull one more card. I mean, what I'm noticing here, you guys, and like I said, I don't want to, this is a beautiful reading. It's profound. And one of the things that's been happening with Libras is we've been having deeper readings, right? Eight of Pentacles. You're meant to be doing something important. You're meant to be working at your craft. You're meant to be sharing your voice and your skills and your soul. And you get caught up in all this other stuff that you feel you're not allowed to. You feel you have to keep towing a certain line. You feel like you have to keep playing a certain role, and it's distracting you from what you really want to be doing here. This can look like anything from songwriting, performing, speaking, showing up at the office and doing what you do best, working with clients, performing, whatever beautiful thing it is that you do. You're being called to pay more attention to that. So before we get into the cards, before we talk about some of these very profound energies that are working with you, Librans, let me just go over a handful quickly of astrology events. I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on the cards this month, but we have a new moon in Gemini in your fellow air sign in your 9th house of your visions, right? And so we have a moon right at the beginning of this month that takes its time and tells you to kind of go internal and plant some seeds and attention about how you're thinking about yourself and how you're thinking about your journey and your big goals. Then Mercury moves into Cancer, into your 10th house of your career. You're going to be thinking about ideas. You're going to be thinking about who you want to be. You're going to be thinking about how you want to present yourself, the work you want to do in the world, right? And as planets start to move into Cancer, once we hit into solstice season, you're going to have more and more of that energy that is like, who do you want to be in this world? What do you want to contribute? Who do you want to represent? How do you want to represent yourself? How do you want to show up? Right? Before Cancer season begins, though, right before, we have a full moon in Sagittarius. And there's that communicative energy, right? So we start the month with planting seeds of intention about who you want to become. We get into the month and we get this full moon that is really about illuminating how you use your words and how you move and act through the world and if it's serving you or not. And then of course we get into Cancer season. Mercury moves into Leo, into a fire sign. That's really going to be a fun communicative energy. So there's a dualism going on here between the intensity and the integrity of your word and how you want to represent yourself in the world. So let's talk about this. So I already mentioned that you are getting taken to a very deep place right off the bat this month, into this place of authenticity, but it comes in the form of the mysterious High Priestess. The High Priestess does represent that kind of Piscean knowing, the divine feminine in the secret house. So when she shows up, we're being asked to work on a modality that's very unseen. It's not about the surface level whatsoever. We're taking you deep, deep, deep. And we're taking you to a place of total honesty about what and who you want to be and what is paining you, what is holding you, right? There's something about that blindfold thing if you don't quite want to see, but you want the clarity. Because if you're willing to go there and shed this identity via the High Priestess and the Ten of Swords, if you're willing to just entertain releasing something, from a narrative to an actual situation, it's really going to depend on each of you, how beautiful it quickly becomes, how fast you realize this is something that you have wanted to shift. It's kind of like having a burr stuck in your side, from a plant, and you can live with it. It stings, it burns, you notice it, but you can live with it, and you don't realize how much it's distracting you, how much vital energy is going into every day to kind of compensating for that burr. And you finally decide, okay, I'm ready to take it out. And you take it out and you feel all that relief flood through you. Yeah, sure, it's still a little sore. You have to heal it. You have to wait for the cells to replicate and heal it, and for that to go away, but you feel the release, you feel the joy, you feel the clarity. There is opportunity for new ways of communicating what you need, communicating who you want to be, and opening up those doors. There's potential for some really great new beginnings in who's closest to you, and in the way you move through the world, and the way you express what you want and who you are. There's a lot of potential for that here. And there's a lot calling you to go through that new doorway and welcome in the abundance of this new time. Solstice season, like I told you, June is very symbolic. As much as we have, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, of course, we have that whole idea of the return of the light. In Australia, you guys are really actually having it. But in June, we have a very similar thing going on with the death and the rebirth with solstice. So thematically, this is a time of recalibration. It's also a time of release and embrace. It's also a time of kind of getting those pieces in alignment. So one of the things that's coming up as you start to open your heart to this next layer, right, is this kind of sense of resistance. The role you feel you have to play, the person you feel you have to be, the way you feel you have to move through the world. Maybe you feel a little bit of pressure to get into this battle pose, right? Maybe you feel like you don't have enough resources here with the Four of Pentacles to make the change you want to make. You might feel that you need to stay in this kind of more conflicted space because honestly, this isn't about big drama. This isn't about big catastrophic things happening. This is about personal growth though, and the decision to move beyond this holding point, to move into the next level of life. And the Five of Wands and the Four of Pentacles are these very specific growth points that we all hit into throughout our lives. One is, why do we have to do things with this kind of fighting mentality? And the other is, where do we feel we're not enough? Where do we feel like we don't have enough to make changes? It's that whole book. Susan Jeffers has the book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. It's an amazing book. It's so fun if you are at a point in your life where you're ready to make a shift or take a chance or put yourself out there with what you do in the world or whatever. She really emphasizes this idea that we're going to feel fear as long as we are growing. We are going to feel nerves and a little bit scared anytime we continue to expand. And that's a sign that things are really happening in our lives and that we can actually handle it. So one of the challenges in those moments is to decide to break past whatever perceived barriers we have in front of us and to feel the fear and do it anyway. It's a great read if you are hitting up against some of this resistance inside, if you are hitting up against some of the nervousness about fully opening to this. Because here's the thing, if you are willing to do that, the Page of Swords comes right in and gives you that clarity. And yes, there is grief after it. I admit that the Page of Swords brings in some kind of clarity with what you have let go. It brings in some kind of clarity about a death of version of self, right? And we did have this Ten of Swords before. I think for a lot of you, this is going to be a death of a version of self. Maybe for some of you, this will be on a more practical level, on a more real world level. You'll be feeling some grief. But for most of you, I think this is going to be a feeling that you were another person. When you think about your goals and your dreams in maybe January and February this year and the way you thought this year was going to go, or maybe even, last year when you were thinking about 2019, you had a vision of it. And, you actually have been growing in these beautiful ways where you've become who you want to become and you're becoming who you want to become. And yet it's been different than you thought it would be. And yet there has been loss and change. And sometimes we have this check-in point where the clarity of that is that we are getting released from these spilled cups. We are getting released from this old paradigm. It's big, it's exciting, it's surprising, it's wonderful, it's hopeful. We have the Queen of Swords and the Fool, which are both just expansive energies. And so is the Page of Swords. Let's try things. Let's do things. Let's get the news that we need. Like a lot of the feeling I get here is that there is a desire for clarity. There is a desire for answers that you all are feeling. And you're ready to sit down and have those conversations. You don't want to wait anymore for things to line up in some kind of way that will suddenly make it okay for you to move. You're ready to know. Now, like I said, this whole process this month is really getting you to focus on what you love to do. Maybe some of you, maybe it's more of a hobby or a hidden secret project that you're working on. Whatever it is that you love to do is tapping you on the shoulder. It doesn't want you getting distracted by drama, by the desire for somebody who's not showing up, by the desire for something that you don't feel like you're ever going to have. It doesn't want you to focus on any of that. Universe is going to continually redirect you back to what you love to do in the world. What makes your heart sing? What gets you excited? What gets you pumped up? It's going to keep trying to get you to focus on this. And so, if you know that that's the case, it will make this month very magical, alchemical almost, in the way that it works. And I'm really excited for that. So I want to give you guys a little solstice toast, a little prayer, a little well wish for this point in the year where we recalibrate and we open up to our next version of self. So let me toast to you with my sparkling water. May the road open up before you with grace and gently show you the clearest way. May decisions be easy and crisp. May answers unfold with beauty and joy. May the clarity of your worth and your path send you to sleep every night completely relaxed and full of the knowing of your value, your worth, and your journey. I love you guys. So, I am wishing you all the most beautiful journey ahead. If you'd like to work with me, you can find all of my info in the description box if you want me to speak at your event, if you want to work with me one-on-one, if you want to follow me, all of that is there. I do post regularly on Instagram at Sarah Verba, so if you're wanting some inspiration throughout the month, great place to go land. Also where I may be announcing last minute openings for sessions, all of that good stuff. You can also find my magical mid-year guide. If you're still mystified by the summer and you haven't checked it out yet, I would highly recommend. That's over on Vimeo, ready to download now, so I will leave that link below. Please like and subscribe. I love having you guys here. I'd love to see you here more, and it really helps me out. I know everybody says this, but it really does. Also, I'm wearing PinkLune's gorgeous jewelry. As always, she's making these crowns this summer, and this one is tiger's eye and quartz. I love it. So keep an eye on her Etsy shop. Leave her link below as well. She does make other jewelry as well, but these crowns are so magical. I never want to take them off. Like I am so spoiled because I get to play with these like every single week, and sometimes you just forget, like, your reality is so cool. You know, I forget sometimes, and it's like, man, I get to play with crowns all week. So go check her out. I'm sending you guys so much love for a beautiful June, and sending you my heart.